think they fail because they hit a wall. They think something dramatic happened. Burnout, pressure, a crisis. But in most cases, that's not what took them out. You want to know what really did it? Boredom. They got bored. The process got repetitive. The progress got slow. The days started to feel the same. And instead of staying with it, they walked away. Not because it was too hard, but because it stopped being exciting. You see, success isn't always dramatic. It isn't always inspiring. Most of the time, it's not even that interesting. It's waking up and doing the work, even when the work feels ordinary. It's repeating the same fundamentals long after the newness has worn off. And it's in those moments when things get quiet, when things get dull, that your future is being decided. I used to think boredom was a signal to change direction. If it wasn't thrilling, I assumed something was wrong. But what I've learned over the years is this: boredom is part of the process. It's not a sign to quit. It's a sign you're doing it right. Because the real work, the lasting work, the kind of work that leads to something meaningful, that work is often repetitive. And how you handle that repetition, how you handle the quiet stretch between starting and succeeding, determines everything. The people who win aren't the ones who find shortcuts. They're not the ones chasing the next thing. They're the ones who can stay focused while everyone else is getting distracted. They're the ones who stick to the plan when it's no longer new. They master the basics and do them for years. While others jump from thing to thing, hoping to feel inspired again, they just keep building, quietly, consistently. So if you've been feeling stuck, if the work has started to feel stale, if the routine is starting to wear on you, good. That means you're in the right place. That means you're building something real. Just don't mistake boredom for failure. Don't let the quiet convince you to start over. Because how you handle boredom determines how far you go. Everyone wants success to feel exciting. They imagine progress looks like big breakthroughs, sudden momentum, visible results. But that's not how it works. Not most of the time. Real success? It's boring. It's quiet. It's often repetitive. It's doing the same small things every day, long after the mood to do them has passed. And that's why most people miss it. People start with energy. The first week of a new goal, they're all in. Reading books, writing lists, setting alarms, it feels good, but then the excitement fades. And what's left? Just the work, the routine, the ordinary. And that's where most people fall off. Not because they're not capable, but because they thought it was supposed to feel better. I used to think success meant always feeling inspired. I thought motivation was the engine. But what I've learned is this: motivation is the spark. Discipline is the engine. And discipline shows up when motivation leaves. Discipline is what gets you through the 37th day of doing the same task, with no audience, no fanfare, and no dopamine hit. Just you, the calendar, and a decision. Keep going or start over. That's why the boring work is the most valuable, because it's the part most people skip. They look for the next idea, the next system, the next high. They think the feeling will come back. But the winners, they don't wait to feel like it. They show up anyway. They embrace the boredom. They know that mastery lives on the other side of repetition. Think about the gym. The person who transforms their body isn't the one with the perfect program. It's the one who shows up when it's raining, the one who goes when it's inconvenient, the one who does the same lifts, the same stretches, and the same nutrition over and over while everyone else is looking for a shortcut. It's not sexy, but it works. Same with money. Saving, investing, budgeting, it's not exciting. In fact, it's dull, but that's exactly why it works. You automate it, you repeat it, and over time, the boring process builds wealth. Not overnight, but inevitably. Because the ones who win with money aren't the ones chasing flashy returns. They're the ones who stay consistent through the monotony. Same with learning, reading, studying, writing. It's not always fun. It's not always inspiring. But the person who shows up with a clear mind, sharp language, and deep insight didn't get that by watching highlight reels. They earned it during the quiet hours when the room was silent, the book was open, and there was no reward except another page turned. See, everyone loves the results. Everyone wants the outcome. But the ones who get there are the ones who can handle the process. And the process, most days, is boring. That's not a problem. That's the point. Because if you can keep going when it's dull, when it's routine, when it's quiet, then you're building something most people never will. So don't run from boredom. Recognize it. Expect it. Because once you learn to sit with boredom and keep going anyway, you unlock a power most people never tap into. Consistency. Not when it's easy, not when it's exciting, but when it's flat. When nothing's happening. That's the moment that separates those who succeed from those who start over again. Repetition is the gym for your future. It's where strength is built. It's where confidence is built. It's where mastery is built. But here's the catch. It only works if you stick with it. If you quit halfway, you don't get stronger. If you change direction every time it feels stale, you never compound the effort. Repetition isn't just what builds success. It's also the test. Most people don't lose because they lack talent. They lose because they lack patience. They put in the reps for a few days, maybe a few weeks. But when the results don't come fast enough, they shift gears. They chase a new method, a new idea, a new goal, and they start the whole process over again and again. Always busy, never building. You have to understand there's a gap between effort and evidence. You plant the seed and for a while it looks like nothing's happening. You keep watering, keep weeding, keep showing up. Still, nothing. But underneath the surface, something's forming. Roots are digging in. Foundations are taking shape. And then one day, it breaks through. One day it shows, but only for the ones who didn't give up while it was still underground. This is where boredom takes people out. They think the repetition means they're not growing. But repetition is how you grow. It's how you internalize the skills. It's how you build the mental wiring for better decisions. It's how you create instinct, not just knowledge. You don't become sharp by learning once. You become sharp by practicing it again and again until it's automatic. I've seen it in every area of life. People start a discipline with energy, reading, working out, saving money, studying. They feel strong for a few days, but then the emotion fades. And when the emotion fades, they assume the habit has lost its value. But that's the moment it's actually working. That's the moment when repetition starts building the muscle. If you stop there, you don't just lose momentum, you lose the benefit of everything you already did. And here's something important to remember. Repetition isn't supposed to feel exciting. It's supposed to feel familiar. That's the point. If it feels repetitive, it means it's sinking in. It means your mind and body are adjusting. It means you're becoming someone new. But most people take that feeling and misinterpret it. They think the routine is stale and that they need something fresh. No, they just need to keep going. You build strength by pushing through sameness. The weight only makes you stronger when you keep lifting it. The words only sharpen your thinking when you keep reading them. The routines only become powerful when you've done them enough times that they run on their own. That's what repetition does. It creates rhythm. And once you have rhythm, you become consistent. And once you become consistent, you become dangerous. So here's the challenge. Stay with it. Whatever discipline you've been working on, don't change the plan just because it feels dry. That's part of the process. That's the part where the roots take hold. Stick with the reps. Keep showing up. Trust the pattern, because repetition will always reward you if you don't interrupt it. Discipline isn't built when everything feels new. It's not built when you're fired up or freshly inspired. Discipline is born in boredom, in the silence, in the stretch of time where nothing exciting is happening. Just the same action again and again with no one watching. That's where it shows up. And more importantly, that's where it's built. Anyone can be consistent when things are fresh. Anyone can show up when it's easy, when it feels good, when the rewards are obvious. But what happens when the novelty wears off? What happens when it starts to feel routine? That's where most people quietly disappear. They don't announce it. They just start skipping steps, lowering standards, delaying, and soon they're back at square one. I've come to believe boredom is one of the best tests in life because it doesn't shout, it whispers. It doesn't challenge your strength, it challenges your commitment. When boredom shows up, it asks you a simple question. Are you serious? Not emotional, not hyped. Serious. Because if you're serious, you'll stay with it even when it's not exciting. The best performers in any field don't rise to the top because they always feel motivated. They rise because they've trained themselves to show up, regardless of how it feels. They've learned to separate action from emotion. They've learned to stay locked in, even when the routine gets dull. That's discipline. Not the kind you talk about, but the kind you live. And boredom is where that kind of discipline is tested, because boredom strips away all the extras. There's no applause, no rush, just you in the process. Just the daily choice to either show up or back off, to either press on or start over. And every time you choose to keep going in that moment, you get stronger, even if it doesn't feel like it, especially when it doesn't feel like it. People say they're just not feeling it anymore. And the question is always the same. When did that become the requirement? Discipline isn't about feelings. It's about alignment. It's about deciding what matters and proving it. Not once, but every day. Especially on the days that feel dull, because that's when the foundation is set. Think about building a house. The foundation is the most repetitive part. Pouring concrete, smoothing it out, waiting for it to set. No decoration, no style, just structure. It's not exciting. But if you skip it, everything on top eventually cracks. And life works the same way. Skip the boring work and your results won't last, but build it strong and you can weather almost anything. So here's the shift. Stop running from boredom. Start recognizing it as the place where discipline grows. Every time you press through, you're not just finishing the task, you're training your identity. You're becoming someone who doesn't need a mood to do the right thing. And that's a powerful person. That's someone who builds momentum that actually sticks. If you want to know who you're becoming, pay attention to how you respond when things get boring. That moment right there is the real test. It's not dramatic. It's not loud, but it determines everything. Boredom doesn't just test your discipline, it tempts you to destroy it, and most people fall for it. The moment things get quiet, repetitive, familiar, they start thinking something's wrong. They assume they've hit a dead end. So what do? They quit, or they switch, or they lower the bar. And every time they do, they lose what they were building. Not because it wasn't working, but because they didn't recognize what boredom actually was. You see this all the time. Someone starts a new habit. They're fired up. They eat clean for 2 weeks, or they get up early for 10 straight days. Then one morning they wake up and it doesn't feel fun anymore. So they stop, or they tweak it, or they jump to something else. And they don't just lose the habit, they lose the momentum. They reset the entire process, and then they wonder why nothing sticks. That's the hidden cost of boredom. It whispers that something must not be working, when in reality, it's working perfectly. The bricks are being laid. The foundation is being set. But instead of continuing, people tear it down and try to build something new. They think they just need a change. But what they really need is consistency. What they really need is to stay put long enough for the results to appear. I've seen it in business. Someone builds a strategy, it starts working slowly, the numbers begin to improve, but then it stalls a little. Progress isn't exciting anymore, so they pivot. They chase something else, and just like that, they walk away from a system that was about to produce real results. They were inches away, but they let boredom convince them to turn back. I've seen it in relationships. Someone starts working on themselves. They build better habits. They communicate better, but it takes time. Growth is slow, and instead of staying the course, they drift back to old patterns. Not because the new way wasn't better, but because the old way was more comfortable. It was familiar. It didn't ask them to be consistent. You've got to understand, boredom isn't the enemy. It's the crossroads. It's the place where most people decide whether they're serious or just interested. The ones who quit at boredom, they keep restarting their lives, new goals, new habits, new direction, over and over, always beginning, never finishing. But the ones who push through, they build something that lasts. And there's another trap. Some people don't quit completely. They just lower their standards. They keep the habit, but they cut the corner. They stop aiming for excellence and settle for just enough. But here's the problem. Excellence only lives in the full effort. When you water it down, you lose the edge. And once the edge is gone, so is the growth. So don't respond to boredom by changing the plan. Respond by doubling down. Reinforce your standards. Tighten your discipline. Remind yourself why you started. The boring part is not the problem. It's the bridge. It's the stretch between now and the breakthrough. And if you can walk across it without checking out, without switching lanes, you'll get to where most people never reach. Every time you abandon something too early, you trade momentum for novelty. And novelty always feels good for a minute, but it never lasts. What lasts is consistency. What lasts is resilience. What lasts is the decision to keep going even when your feelings try to vote against it. So when boredom shows up, don't change everything. Don't walk away. Don't water it down. Just keep showing up, because that's what success is built on. And it's how most people lose it. Right at the moment, they were closer than they realized. If boredom is what knocks most people out, then learning how to stay steady through it is the real advantage. You can build that skill. You can train it just like anything else. Because the goal isn't to eliminate boredom, it's to outlast it, to keep moving when it shows up. And once you learn how to do that, you become someone most people can't compete with. So how do you do it? How do you stay consistent when the work feels repetitive? When the habit starts to feel flat? You simplify. You remove the guesswork. You don't try to make it exciting. You make it automatic. Set a system that doesn't rely on how you feel. Decide ahead of time what happens each day, and then just follow through. It's not about intensity. It's about structure. Make it non-negotiable. You don't brush your teeth because it's exciting. You do it because it's part of your life. Same thing with discipline. You build it into your identity. You stop asking whether you feel like it today, and you start telling yourself, this is just what you do. That shift in language changes everything. It moves you from trying to deciding. Next, narrow your focus. Boredom creeps in when you're looking too far ahead, constantly wondering whether it's working yet or when it will pay off. But consistency lives in today, in doing the thing that's right in front of you. So stop measuring everything. Start finishing what you said you'd do. Stop waiting for it to feel meaningful. Trust that it is, even if the results are still hiding. Now here's something else. Learn to anchor your habits to identity, not outcomes. Rather than focusing on saving a specific amount like $10,000, become someone who saves money every week. Instead of aiming to lose 30 pounds, become someone who trains daily. Goals can feel far away, but identity is something you live right now. And when your actions reflect who you believe you are, it becomes easier to stay the course. Add some friction to quitting. Make giving up inconvenient. If your goal is to write daily and you miss a day, fine, but don't miss two. That's the rule. Break the chain once and get right back to it. Protect your rhythm. Defend the habit. Because the longer you stay in motion, the stronger your identity becomes. And don't be afraid to adjust the environment. You don't need to change the goal. You just need to refresh the setting. Tidy your workspace. Change your routine slightly. Shift the time of day. Small tweaks can help keep your mind engaged without abandoning the discipline. You're not chasing novelty. You're maintaining energy. And maybe most important, keep a record. Track your effort. Write down your wins, not for praise, but for proof. When you see how far you've come, it reminds you that it's working, that the boring days are part of something bigger, that you're not just doing tasks, you're building something solid, something lasting. You don't need hype, you need rhythm. You don't need fireworks, you need follow-through. And once you train yourself to stay steady, regardless of the mood, you move into rare territory. Because now you've built the one skill that holds everything else together. Consistency in the absence of excitement. That's the difference. That's the edge. The ability to keep going when it doesn't feel magical anymore. And when you can do that, nothing can stop you. Boredom isn't a problem. It's a mirror. It shows you what you're really committed to. Anyone can start strong. Anyone can show up when it's new, when it's exciting, when it feels good. But the ones who finish, the ones who grow, succeed, transform, they're the ones who keep going when the thrill wears off. You don't need to love boredom, but you do need to respect it, because it's always part of the process. Every worthwhile pursuit will eventually feel repetitive. And in that moment, you've got a choice. Stay with it and let it compound, or jump to something new and start over again. And if you keep starting over, you'll always be a beginner. So what do? You train for boredom. You prepare for it. You expect it. And when it shows up, you don't flinch. You don't panic. You just keep going. Same time, same standard, same effort. And if you can do that day after day, long after the mood has passed, something powerful happens. You start to separate. You start to build the kind of consistency most people will never touch. Because that's what boredom really is. It's the filter. It's where most people stop. And if you can push through it, you've already beaten half the competition. You've already moved into rare territory. And the more you repeat, the stronger you get. Not just in skill, but in character. How you handle boredom determines everything. It determines whether your habits stick or fall apart, whether your goals turn into results or stay locked in a notebook, whether you grow stronger or stay stuck at the starting line. So show up again, one more time, even if it feels like nothing is happening, even if it's the same as yesterday, even if no one sees it. That's the work that matters most. And if you can keep doing that long enough, quietly enough, you'll wake up one day and realize you've built something no shortcut ever could.